Bitcoin just crashed below 60K, the line that all the Bitcoin bulls were saying was the bottom. And the bears are coming out and bringing receipts. Strategy's STRC has depegged from 100 down to 75, starting what many are calling a death spiral. And law firms are coming out to investigate whether Strategy has committed securities fraud. Will this threaten this Bitcoin bear market even more? To add insult to injury, two of the world's largest money managers just said they no longer believe in Bitcoin. One even said that it's going to zero. And he's not the only one. But what everyone is missing is this. Scott Bessent just went on CNBC and gave us a signal as to where the market is going next and what it means for sound money assets. I'm going to break down what he said and what it means for Bitcoin moving forward. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. Yo, before we jump in, when we look at the data and analytics behind the show, we see that many of you regularly watch the show that aren't subscribed. We drop fire 7 days a week that helps you to separate the signal from the noise. Subscribe if you already haven't. All right, let's go. Gang, we're back below 60K. And when people ask me what it's been like to invest in Bitcoin for the past 5 years, it's hard not to look like Vince McMahon. I've got people who I haven't heard from in years texting me and hunting me down like Sophie Cunningham. And they've got good reason. Bitcoin's been getting smacked all year. The sentiment online with Bitcoin has never been lower. And I think the main catalyst behind Bitcoin's price slump this year has been this. Bitcoin has now been lumped in as a macro asset, a hedge against inflation, against geopolitical conflict, an asset that's tied to interest rates, an asset that's tied to oil prices and what happens in the macro economy, an asset that's tied to war. And all of these things have simultaneously been headwinds since late last year. But Scott Bessent just dropped a nugget on Wednesday that should be a signal for a rally for risk-on assets like Bitcoin.
Yeah, look, I think we didn't have regime change, but we've changed the regime. And that's what took a long time in terms of getting to the negotiations. The actual fighting, which our military destroyed their Air Force, destroyed their Navy, destroyed a large part of their missile stockpile, but more importantly, destroyed 80 or 85% of their missile producing capabilities. So we've done that. But Joe, what took a long time was finding people to negotiate with. You know, if you think about the Iranian power structure, it's three different groups. It's the elected officials on one side, the IRGC in the middle, and then the clerics on the other. And those were decapitated at the first level, some at the second level, and now we are down at the third level. And what President Trump has done with the combination of epic fury, economic fury, and the blockade, for the first time ever, for the first time since 1979, the Iranians are willing to discuss their nuclear program. Never happened before.
Regime change. Negotiations. Iran coming to the table for the first time since 1979. This should open up an opportunity in markets to get some hope and some optimism that was overhanging Bitcoin largely as a macro asset. But that's not what you're going to hear in the media. You're going to continue to hear the negativity. It's funny that Bitcoin is the only asset with no CEO, no employees, no marketing manager, no media company, and no actual person that is running or managing Bitcoin, yet it's the most discussed asset in the world. And when it's negative, the negativity spreads to everywhere. It spreads to podcasters, influencers, media writers, in mainstream media news. Dave Portnoy, huge following online, just posted a tweet that got 3.9 million views, saying that I need all of the people saying that Bitcoin's the future and it's going to a million to tell me why all of the people who said it's a Ponzi scheme are wrong. It seems like it's going to zero. Really? The asset that was started with no fanfare 16 years ago and released onto the internet that everyone thought was real and not fake and a scam is now a $1.4 trillion asset with no one managing it on any side, and yet now it's going to zero. He's not the only one saying that it's going to zero. What about Jeremy Grantham, one of the world's largest asset managers? He manages about $80 billion worth of assets. And he's someone who hasn't outperformed the index in over 30 years, giving people mediocre returns, but yet somehow he's a world expert on crypto and Bitcoin. He also says that it's going to zero.
When you're talking about investment strategies, how much crypto do you own?
None.
Have you ever owned any crypto?
No.
Will you ever own any crypto?
No.
Will you ever advise anyone to buy crypto?
No.
Why?
I think it's an unnecessary piece of nonsense. It facilitates nothing except criminals moving money, so they can't be seen. It's not a store of value since it bounces around all over the place, just down from 120 to 60, because it felt like it. So it's not stable. It's volatile as hell. It's not used conveniently as a medium of exchange. You can't go into a shop and use it easily. It does one thing very, very well. It's a means of speculating beautifully.
Do you think Bitcoin's going to go to zero?
Well, in the distant future, yes, it will certainly go to zero, but it may take a long time. And in the distant future, everything goes to zero. So
Bitcoiners have been tearing down these arguments for years now. It's just used by criminals. There's no actual real utility or use case. And because if it goes down over short periods of time, it's not a store of value. These sorts of media clips introduce more and more doubt into Bitcoin. You add on to that, why are they asking $90 billion fund managers about whether they believe in Bitcoin or not? Here's a clip from Philip Kotu.
There's fabulous IPOs coming out. There's SpaceX, there's going to be some AI. And I just wonder, where is Bitcoin now? And the purpose of Bitcoin, and a little bit what you need to believe, is almost this maximalist view about Bitcoin. Like when I speak to people about Bitcoin, it's a bit like a cult. You're either in or you're not. So that's just my new thoughts on Bitcoin. So I'm a little bit more worried, and I would rather bet on, is space going to quadruple over the next 20 years?
The fabulous IPOs coming out? You mean the SpaceX IPO that's down 20% since it came out? Is space going to quadruple over the coming years? Crazy talk. What about people coming for the head of Michael Saylor, Bitcoin's loudest proponent and Bitcoin's biggest buyer and advocate over the last 5 or 6 years? Now, he's somehow being compared to Sam Bankman-Fried. Even though people are still collecting their dividends, today is the darkest day in crypto.
And today marks a dark day in the history of crypto. There may not have been, Sam Bankman-Fried, that guy just committed wholesale fraud. He moved people's money to other accounts. In this case, you moved people's money into Bitcoin and then literally destroyed their trust in your company because of your stupid fucking mouth. You sat there on stage at a conference and acted like a cocky asshole, saying, I didn't say to sell that we wouldn't sell our Bitcoin. I told you not to sell your Bitcoin. I told you to hold the bag while we dump on your fucking head. And right now, the people who are victims are the shareholders of MicroStrategy who bought into your absolute trash.
This is an absolutely insane clip. No one's making these kinds of videos about Nike, which is down 75% from its all-time highs. What about Palantir? No one's coming out of the woodworks and saying Palantir is down 50% from its all-time highs, which is exactly what Bitcoin's down from its all-time highs. More people own Palantir and Nike than they do Bitcoin. People don't know what they own, and Bitcoin is the perfect scapegoat for everything that they don't understand, mainly money. But the hodlers, they're not moving. 38% of the Bitcoin supply has not moved in over 4 years. The people who've been in Bitcoin aren't leaving Bitcoin because we've seen this before. And people who've seen it before don't use leverage, they don't get overextended, and they never sell their assets. They work with companies like Ledn to allow them to borrow against their Bitcoin but do so responsibly. With Ledn, you can only borrow up to 50% loan to value to the Bitcoin you post onto the platform. It's never lent out, it's never rehypothecated. That Bitcoin sits in a wallet address that you can see. You can borrow up to 50% of your Bitcoin stack, re-top it off, and pay off your loan at any point in time. Use the link in the description or the QR code on the screen to get started with Ledn today. The problem with Bitcoin is that it has so much volatility because people think it's a get-rich-quick asset. They don't believe in buying things and holding things for the long term. People don't understand the impact that you can have in 10 years and want to make it all in 1 year. And so people try to juice their returns by using leverage. You see stories like this all too often.
Hey, it's been a while. Welcome back. I sold all my Bitcoin and I suffered absolutely massive financial losses. If you told me a year ago I'd be saying this out loud on camera, I'd have laughed in your face. But that's why I've been gone. People kept asking where I went, and the honest answer is I couldn't face you guys. Bitcoin fell from 120K last October to the low 60Ks this summer, a 50% crash, and nothing can prepare you for what a move like this does to you mentally especially when you're leveraged. Money, easy come, easy go. I was over leveraged. A simple small mistake with brutal consequences. And as the price kept bleeding down with no bounce, no relief rally, I was staring down the barrel of liquidation. And so I had a choice: either sell, take the loss and survive, or hold, stand by my ideals and get wiped out. And so I sold. And then I went dark because I realized I had no idea what I was doing anymore. I'd built my entire identity around this. I was the Bitcoin guy. But as the markets moved against me and my thesis simply was not playing out, I only doubled down and found myself confused, depressed, burned out, and honestly a little embarrassed at how deluded I had let myself become.
I sold my Bitcoin. It's all over. I was over leveraged. But the worst part about this video isn't that he made a mistake. It's that he tied his identity to something that will never save him in the long run. I talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an asset that I use and that I leverage for the good of my family, for the good of my assets. But Bitcoin doesn't control me, and I understand that Bitcoin is never going to save me. I've said that many times before on this show. Never build your identity around a person, around a company, or around an asset class. But one of the most fundamental reasons why I believe so much in Bitcoin is that it gives you the ultimate control and flexibility. It's a bearer asset. One that when the financial system goes up and it goes under, well, you have an asset that you can use outside of the controls of the major financial system. But you can only do that if you hold your keys, which is why we partner with the Bitcoin Way, because they have coaches that will teach you exactly what this means, how to run a node, how to do it privately, what's a Tor network, what's private keys, what's a single sig transaction, what's a multi-sig transaction, how do my parents and my family understand Bitcoin if I'm no longer here to control it. Members of their team will walk through all of those steps. Go to thebitcoinway.com/partner/Dante-Cook to get started. Bitcoin is going to work over time because you have unlimited assets in fiat going into a fixed supply asset in Bitcoin. It's digital. It's native to the internet, which is the future of where the world's going. There's no arguments about that. Right now, the Fed is in a tough position because the interest rates now are restricted to mortgages right now, one of the biggest asset classes in the economy. So if they move them up, well, they're going to have issues with housing being more affordable than it already is. However, inflation is also something that is getting out of hand. I know the numbers that come out, I believe that they're cooked and they're baked. But we can all see that inflation is a problem, that if they lower interest rates too much, well, inflation could be sent skyrocketing. And if they go too far by lowering interest rates or raising interest rates too far, well, then they have an issue in the bond market and they can't pay their debts and their obligations. And that's why Bitcoiners just sit and wait for the inevitable collapse and time bomb that is coming in the fiscal markets. The Fed is backed into a corner and they don't have many tools and options. And so instead of admitting that you are wrong, it's like my kids, right? You ask them if they did something wrong, they'll never just admit that they're wrong. Neither will the Fed. They're just going to print money and try to paper over it. And that's why the reward in Bitcoin is just buying, sitting, and waiting. And I love this clip from Dan Tapiero because that's what the best asset managers in the world do. They get paid for waiting.
Believes that, all I have to do is just buy this thing and come back in 10 years and I'll have made money and I won't have to do anything.
I'll have made much more than if I do all the shit I
Correct. And it's a very hard thing for a human to believe, but hold on a second, that you absolutely do nothing, because our mentality is you work hard, you make money, and the reality is you are getting paid for something. You are being rewarded for having a vision about the future that will be right.
True besties are made in the bear market, and one day there's going to be a group of people pointing at each other, seeing each other from across the room, who were able to survive this bear market because they understood what was going to happen in the future that other people didn't presently recognize today. And days like these are where true besties are made in the Bitcoin Bear Club. Or we could just be going down on a sinking ship together. But I don't believe that. And if I did, I wouldn't be on this show telling you that I do believe it. I got into Bitcoin when it crashed to 3K. I've been here before. I've seen this many times before. Bitcoin falling from the mid 30s and the mid 50s down to 20K in 2021 after the FTX collapse. I've been here. Bitcoin is down 50% and people are complaining about an asset class that continues to go up over time, making higher lows every 4 years. If something about Bitcoin changes my mind, I'll let you know, but that day hasn't come. And so I say stay calm and stack on. What do you think? I think that the macro overhang in Bitcoin, because it trades like a macro asset, is the thing that's been holding Bitcoin back. So what happens when Iran comes to the table and is able to negotiate? that macro overhang that's been on sound money assets for the past several months gets lifted. Then I think we see 100K Bitcoin. But what do you think? Am I overblowing Scott Bessent's clip, or is it actually the true next catalyst? Subscribe to the channel and let us know what you think. We want to go on this dialogue and this journey with you. If you want to learn more and more ways to continue stacking Bitcoin, we bring you all of the tools on this show. That's why we partnered with Saz Mining, the leader in Bitcoin mining. Right now is one of the most attractive times in the history of Bitcoin to get into Bitcoin mining. So you want to trust the people with your money that have been doing this for years. They know how to set up the machines. They know the most profitable machines. They have the electrical contracts. They have the maintenance figured out. And so you just send them your money and they send sats to your wallet under the price of what you could buy spot Bitcoin in the market. Use the link in the description or the QR code to get started with Saz Mining today. This is Dante Cook of Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.